Thank you, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to our October 5th virtual Zoom meeting. This is, it was supposed to start at 9:30. Unfortunately, we're running a little late, but welcome, Dave, to our meeting. Anyways, I'm going to call this meeting to order. I ask everyone to please turn your cell phones off or place them on vibrate so it doesn't disturb the meeting. And I'm going to ask council that we stick to the agenda, and I'm looking forward to following the procedural bylaw and finishing this meeting by 12:30 today. So I'll remind everyone of declaration of pecuniary interest if it arises. And we have the minutes here from the council meeting September 21st. I'll look for a motion to receive those minutes.
Motion to receive, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Ellis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, then we're going to move right into delegations, and it's good to have Dave Smith here, our MPP, with the Queen's Park update. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks, Jim. It's good to be here, even if it's just virtually and not actually in person. It's been a while since I've been here. I apologize for that. We've tried on a number of occasions to have me come over. We just weren't successful. And again, most of it is COVID related. When we first started talking about me coming, it was way back after the budget. So there was a fair bit that has happened since then. I'll skip forward a fair bit then. Yesterday, we had a throne speech introducing the second session for this current legislation. It's we actually sat in our first session longer than any other government, with the exception of the very first provincial government. We passed more legislation in that time than any other provincial government, other than the very first that had to pass all of the legislation that Ontario started with. So I think those are fairly impressive things. We got to work right away and continued with that. The throne speech focused primarily on COVID recovery and the good work that Ontario has done. We're in better position right now than almost every other jurisdiction in North America. There is concern about the fourth wave, obviously, but we have been able to hold the numbers to an average of less than 700 infections a day, and our hospitalization rate is significantly lower than what it was in previous waves. A lot of that has to do with vaccines. I believe yesterday the stat was we had 133 individuals who were in ICU who were not vaccinated, and we had 8 in ICU who were vaccinated. So the vaccine is working. It doesn't prevent someone from getting COVID completely, but it absolutely prevents someone from having a very severe case of COVID. And our best way out of this is to get as many people vaccinated as possible. We can move to more of an endemic situation than a pandemic situation if we get enough people vaccinated. To put it in perspective, in our third wave, we had at our peak more than 450 people in the ICU. And we had to cancel surgeries. We had to delay a number of things just because we did not have hospital capacity. Now, people have said to me in the past, why is that a big deal? There's usually somewhere around 400 or 500 people in ICU at any given time. The difference is, if you were in ICU and you did not have COVID, your stay in ICU was less than 3 days. If you had COVID-19, your stay in ICU was almost a month. So there was a turnover of people in the ICU beds normally. But with COVID-19, there was not. So that significantly reduced our capacity. To put it in a very simple analogy, if you have a restaurant that can serve 50 people, if all 50 people are there for the entire day, you're only serving 50 people. But in a typical restaurant where the tables are turning over every hour, you could serve 400 or 500 in a day, with a capacity of 50. And it's the same thing with the ICU beds. When we were looking at people spending 2 or 3 days in the ICU before moving on, we were able to have a number of people come through it. But if you had COVID and you were in the ICU bed for 30 days, we weren't able to do a number of the other things. How did that affect operations? When someone has an operation, there is always a chance of a complication. And there is always a chance that you're going to need to go to the ICU directly after your surgery so that they can make sure that you come out of it as safely as possible. If we didn't have ICU capacity in the hospital, we couldn't take the chance of someone having a surgery and having a complication, because it would mean in most cases they would pass away. And that's what we were trying to avoid. But we are in much better shape now. Our fall economic statement will be coming out at the end of October or beginning of November, and that'll be an update on our fiscal situation. We saw from the Financial Accountability Office that our projected deficit last year was not as bad as what we actually thought it was going to be. And that was due to an increase in revenue. It wasn't due to a reduction in spending. We spent the money that we believed we needed to combat COVID. But what we saw, because we were able to keep some of the economy going, was significantly higher tax revenues than what we had anticipated. We thought we were going to be in worse shape than we are. We're now in an interesting situation where we have more jobs than we have people applying for those jobs. And that is something that we're going to have to really work on to get that workforce back. Part of it is consumer confidence, I'll call it, where there's still hesitation to go back to work because they're afraid of catching COVID-19. We have done a number of different things. Obviously, the mask policies, the hand washing and so on, all of that has helped. But we've also embarked on a rapid testing program for businesses. If you're a small business with less than 100 employees, you can go to the Peterborough Chamber website. It's peterboroughchamber.ca. And right there is a link where you can get rapid antigen testing so that you can have those tests in-house. They take about 3 to 5 minutes to get the results. Very, very simple. It's non-intrusive. It's not like the PCR test where they shove that swab up and have to scratch the back of your brain and you feel like they've done a lobotomy on you. The PCR or the antigen test just has to get past your nostrils. So it's only about that far that it's actually going. As soon as it starts to tickle, that's when you know that you've got the right spot. You get the results in about 3 to 5 minutes. And what we can do with it is we can stop the spread of COVID-19 in the workplace, because you can test to find out if someone has the virus present in their sinuses before they start their job. We're recommending that companies do it every 2 days a week. My suggestion for most traditional companies is Mondays and Wednesdays. The theory behind that is if you were exposed over the weekend, we can find out on Monday. And if you were exposed during the week at work, we would find that out on Wednesday. And it helps stop the spread. In terms of other things that are on the go right now from Queen's Park, we introduced some legislation, or we will be introducing some legislation later on today in about an hour or so from the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. And that has to do with some wastewater disposal and sewage treatment plants in and around the GTA. There are a number of other initiatives that will be coming forward over the next couple of weeks. And we're looking forward to getting back to work and getting some things done. With the federal election now over, we have some certainty moving forward on the direction that we're going to have fiscally from the federal government. And that puts us in a better position then to have a strong fall economic statement. I know that there's some local issues that you want to talk about specifically, so I will cut off my formal remarks at that point and open it up for questions. And I'm happy to address the things that I know are going to come up today.
All right, thanks, Dave. And I do want to thank you for you and Brock for the weekly or bi-weekly updates that we've had over the last year and a half. It's really helped keep us on top of things. And yeah, there's a lot of other things that are more local issues that we're going to have to start getting into. And I'm sure council has some questions here today, and we'll just make sure we do it the proper way as far as we are in an open meeting. So I'm going to open it up to council, and Deputy Mayor Giroux, you can start off.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor Martin. Thanks for coming this morning, MPP Smith. It's yeah, it's long overdue for sure. We're happy to have you here. I just like to touch point on one of the points that you spoke to, and that's our hospital situation. Our municipality is no different than a lot of them, all of them probably. We have people waiting for surgery, much needed surgery, and they can't get in. So we have to do, the province and us all have to do everything we can do to try and start cleaning up this backload of patients that desperately need surgery. So I'm glad you talked about that this morning. So I want to thank you for that. Thank you, Mayor Martin.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, Mayor Martin, if you don't mind, I'd like to make a comment on that. Peterborough Regional Hospital has done an exceptional job. The healthcare workers at the hospital have been working above and beyond. Overtime is not something that any of them have taken lightly. They have really done an exceptional job during COVID. It meant that a number of the nursing staff weren't able to have vacation time, or very much vacation time last year. And we all know that sometimes you need to recharge your batteries. So I applaud PRHC because they've embarked on a process right now where they're trying to get as many people through and into some vacation time to recharge those batteries, because they've offered to open up the operating rooms to a much greater extent moving forward. And we'll see surgeries available in the evenings as well as on weekends. But before they opened that up, they wanted to make sure that everybody involved in the hospital had an opportunity to take a little bit of time off, recharge their batteries, because a nurse that isn't feeling well, that may have some additional stresses because of family life, is not going to be in a position where they're going to be able to offer their best care, even though they may want to. So kudos to PRHC for recognizing that their staff need a little bit of a break to recharge their batteries. And I know that they'll be coming back, to use a sports analogy, at 110%.
Thank you, Dave, for that. If I might, Mayor Martin, respond to that. I think we all realize that our healthcare system workers have done something what I think is almost impossible. They've worked through this. Kudos to each and every one of them, no matter what department they're in. They work well beyond their capabilities of the hours they work, the stress they're under. So personally, I want to thank them, each and every one of them. I think we better learn a lesson here, that we can't pull doctors and nurses out of thin air. And we better start a system right away to start training. And I know that's in the works, but that's just a comment. Thank you both.
Thank you. Yeah, and is there anybody else from council? I know one thing I had here, Dave, that's kind of fresh, and I'm hoping to work on it over the winter, is the camping issue. I've talked to you several times about it. We did something about 2 or 3 years ago with M&R, and I just would like to do that again this winter, is have some dialogue and between our Parks and Recreation manager and M&R, and see if we can do a better job with this, and maybe highlight some of the issues we've been having. A lot of it's been it's been a lot worse since COVID, but I think there is some, if we could go back to where we were 3 years ago and try and fix some of the issues, I think it would be a good thing for both of us. But that's just something I would like to see us do over the winter here anyways. But there is a couple other local issues. I don't know whether council has any questions or comments. I'm not, Barry, go ahead, and then Art.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Dave, it may seem minute to a lot of people, but we've had a lot of inquiries and when we're going to get number 7 highway fixed at the railway tracks, about 100 yards from the corner. And the holes that are there it's just ridiculous. It's a safety issue because we've had more near accidents there. And, you know, it's just good luck that we haven't had a real serious one. So I would just like to pass this on to you and see if you can help us in any way or shape or form, because it's long overdue. Thank you.
Actually, we had conversations with the Ministry of Transportation in July about this. They're looking at the next 5-year plan on how they're going to maintain the major highways across Ontario. And we flagged this as one of the issues for Havelock. I believe it is now going through to Treasury Board to finalize what the 5-year plan is. And my expectation is that we'll hear something just after Christmas in time for the next construction season, when we'll be doing all of that work on Highway 7 between Havelock and I believe it'll go as far as Madoc.
Okay, Barry, follow up.
Yeah, just to follow up, it is a safety issue, Dave, and like I say, there's been more near misses there than you can even imagine. So I would hope that it would be on the top of the list. I thought maybe we were going to get it. We were promised maybe September. Well, September's come and gone. So if you can put a spear in somebody up there, please do it.
I think with it sounds like I'm making an excuse, and truly I am making an excuse. With some of the challenges that we had with rainfalls and washouts, there were areas where they had started, not in this riding in particular, but there were areas where they had started doing significant renovations, and then with the storm coming through, it was washed out. So weeks worth of work was wasted, and they had to go back and redo that. And they're playing a bit of catch up right now.
Okay. All right, thanks, Dave. Councillor Webb, go ahead.
I was just wondering, over the past 2 years, Dave, here we've had quite a problem in our area with gypsy moths. And I was just wondering if there'd been any discussion, say at the MNR at the provincial level, in terms of either dealing with it or providing funding to the municipalities that are really getting hit hard with this, because our area over the last year was bad, but this year is getting really bad. And the numbers of people that are going to the private spraying are increasing. So I was just wondering if there's been any discussion about that at the provincial level.
We've actually had significant conversations about it, and we went back and took a look at what happened in the 80s. That was the last time. There was the late 80s, early 90s, when there was significant spraying to get rid of the LDD moths. What that study found was that prior to spraying, the life cycle was approximately 7 or 8 seasons, and we're entering the 7th season right now. The expectation is that it will significantly drop off next year, and the following year we will have virtually no LDD moth infestation. The other thing that may occur, we're expecting a much harsher winter, which will also kill off a number of the eggs, so that'll drop it. But the study itself found that when they did the spraying in the late 80s and early 90s, they extended that cycle of infestation by the number of years that they did the spraying. So for example, in some areas, they sprayed for 3 years, and the extension of the cycle was 3 years beyond that. So there was significant money that was spent on it. There was also a number of other species that were killed as a result of it. And there was a reduction in the population of, in particular, wild turkeys. It turns out that turkeys feast on the caterpillars themselves. It's like crack cocaine for turkeys. And when the gypsy moths were sprayed, it poisoned those caterpillars. When the caterpillars died and they were eaten by the turkeys, we saw a drop off that year in the turkey population. So we're really hesitant to do a widespread spraying because of the effect that there'd be on some other species. And based on what we've seen from these cycles, our expectation is that this year is actually going to be the worst of it, and that we will see a significant decline over the next 2 years.
Thank you, Dave. And can I just ask one more?
But
Well, I got here on the, I guess another cottager issue is the, cottage rentals and Airbnbs. Obviously, I see you nodding, so you've obviously heard about them. But a number of issues surrounding that, Dave. One that was brought up, I think it was raised to the government. I see Terry in the meeting here. Was with these rentals, I guess, I don't know if it's like this anymore, but you say you or I need a license to drive a personal watercraft. But when these people were renting these places, they were getting the personal watercraft license with the rental. And there were a whole bunch of kind of issues around that. I was just wondering if maybe you could talk about what the province was doing to deal with these issues.
So this is something that has come up to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing over the last year and a half or so, I would say. I think it was exasperated with the issues around COVID. People who traditionally would have gone to another jurisdiction to vacation were looking for ways that they could vacation in Ontario. And we saw an increase in the Airbnb cottage rental market. One of the challenges that we have with addressing that short-term rental market is in the larger geographic areas or the larger population areas, we don't have enough hotels to actually accommodate all of the people. And if I use Toronto as an example, it's estimated that there's about 35,000 Airbnb that are in use at any given time. They don't have the hotel capacity for it. So whatever we do at the provincial level, we have to make sure that we don't do it in a way that damages tourism, where we don't have enough traditional hotel space, but also protects areas like Havelock-Belmont-Methuen, where the recreational cottagers are being almost abused. And I don't mean to suggest that we have some bad actors or that everyone is a bad actor. We do have some individuals who will take advantage of the freedom that they have in the cottages in the areas like this riding in particular. The expression I've used, and forgive me if it offends someone, but we have idiots who have never understood, because they've never been exposed to what life is like in rural Ontario, what life truly is like to live on the lake. And they come in, they party, they leave. It's an education process that we have to go through. How do we handle it in a way then that doesn't take away from that family cottage owner who may have 4 or 5 family members who share the cottage over the course of the summer, and the cottage owner who uses Airbnb sporadically over the course of the summer so that they can continue owning that family cottage and continue to use it. And it's finding that balance, and it's taken longer than I thought it would. But in conversations with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, they have pointed out that there are significant differences between the rural Airbnb challenges and the urban Airbnb challenges. And they're hesitant to have a blanket approach to it. I think this is one of those things that will continue to come up at AMO, and in particular at ROMA, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association. We can't have a blanket approach. I don't believe we can have a blanket approach from the province, but I think that what we can do is come up with best practices guidelines that would allow the municipalities then to implement something working with us that is going to be specific to their needs. And again, using this riding as a prime example, I think Havelock-Belmont-Methuen, North Kawartha, and Trent Lakes are experiencing similar difficulties with Airbnb, but Selwyn, obviously the city of Peterborough, and Duro-Dummer are not experiencing the same challenges in the same ways. So just looking at the 7 municipalities here, it's obvious to me that we can't have a blanket approach. It wouldn't work for everyone. And I do want to be very respectful of those family cottages that have been multi-generational, where you have 4 or 5, let's say, different brothers and sisters or cousins who all share in that property. And we don't want to be in a position where we take away that family tradition of them sharing it because we're trying to stop those idiots from the bad behavior that they have.
Thank you. I agree. It's not a one size fits all solution, and I'm glad to hear that the province is looking at new and different ways of tackling that problem. So thank you very much for coming today, Dave.
You're welcome.
So is there any other questions there? Councillor Ellis, did you have something?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, thank you to Dave for attending our council meeting today. Thanks for the COVID update report. I'd like to focus back to more local items, and I thank Councillor Webb for bringing the topic of Airbnb up. It was on the top of my list as well, so it's good to hear your comments, Dave, on that topic. I'm a firm believer that as a municipality, we need to take our own approach to do some of the controls that we can do. I see it firsthand where I live. There's an Airbnb here, so all the issues that you spoke to, I see firsthand, as well as the environmental effects of Airbnb, where you used to have two people live in a large, beautiful home. Now it has anywhere from 25 to 30 people rotating through that property, and it's more visible, I guess, to me because of where I live. But I think I know the county is taking an approach to do some kind of guidelines to help us control some of the issues. But I'm a firm believer that our own municipality need to take that approach as well. A couple of other things, more local. I guess really there's not much sense in bringing up our long-term care facility because we're in a holding pattern there unless there's something new, Dave, that you can share with us today.
What I'll say on that one, Larry, when the Ministry of Long-Term Care and the Ministry of Health review the needs for long-term care, they look at two things, and the two things go hand in hand. The first is, what is the need in the community? And the second is, can the long-term care facility be built? And obviously, if it can be built, will it be staffed appropriately? Havelock-Belmont-Methuen has demonstrated definitively that there is a need for long-term care beds in this community, and that the only way that need is going to go away is if a long-term care facility is built in Havelock-Belmont-Methuen. If for whatever reason a developer, and I'm speaking in general terms, if a developer were to come forward and say, yes, we have been awarded beds and we had intended on building in this area, but we're not able to, that community would not lose the allotment of beds. That community would have an opportunity then to investigate and find another service provider or another developer to put together a long-term care facility. So I know that there have been challenges with your long-term care facility. The municipality applied for grants and received additional funding to upgrade the water and sewer and all services to that area. The service provider, as part of a consortium, explained the challenges that they were having financially under the conditions that they were originally given, and just over $7 million more was allocated to them for the build. And there are performance measurements that thus far have not been met. It is my firm belief that the Ministry of Long-Term Care and the Ministry of Health will continue to agree that Havelock-Belmont-Methuen is underserved and needs to have a long-term care facility in the very, very near future. However we can help facilitate that, I'm happy to do that and make sure that the people in this community are well served and get what they need to have.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Another item, and you've been involved with this as well, as our Fish Hatchery Road, which is presently a by road. Um, Wondering if you could give us anything new on that item.
When we first started talking about Fish Hatchery Road, it seemed to me that it was going to be a very, very simple solution, and that the right path forward was fairly obvious. As I got more experienced as your elected member and realized how government works, what seems like it should be a simple solution never is. And pardon the analogy, but it feels like at times we're pushing an elephant uphill and that elephant has diarrhea. Where we're at now with it, I believe that we have an agreement in principle on what should happen with it. And we're now at the structural stage of what has to be done. A few years ago, all government assets were transferred to the Ministry of Government Consumer Services. And there were policies put in place about dispersing government assets to make sure that an individual or a company didn't receive a benefit from it, that everything had to be done at fair market value. And when you're looking at a spare warehouse, for example, or an empty lot somewhere, it makes perfect sense that you want to do it in a way that provides the maximum benefit for the taxpayer. The challenge that we have is we're talking about a road, and what is fair market value for a road? It's not really an asset, and there isn't a mechanism in place to do it. So we have started the process then of transferring the ownership from that ministry to another ministry, and then the process of how would we effectively manage that as we move forward. There are some requirements timeline wise. It has to be posted on the environmental registry for a period of time. It has to be posted in a couple of other registries where people have an opportunity to provide input, and those all have defined time periods. I thought we would have a resolution before the end of this summer, but based on what I'm being told on the process side of it, I think that we will be in a position early into the next construction season to finally see a proper resolution to that, so that the road can be brought back up to a standard that's effective for everyone and be put in a position where it can be maintained long-term, and solve the challenges that we've had on who truly owned it, who was responsible for it, and how do we get it fixed for all of those individuals. It has been a much longer process, but I firmly believe that we are now on the right path to correct it. And it's a matter of getting through those legislated waiting periods for comment. And I do believe that we'll be in a position for the next construction season to see a final resolution for it. A final positive resolution.
That sounds better, Dave. Thank you. That's it, Mayor Gerald. Martin.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay, Dave, that's one of the frustrations with the council is we don't have control of so many things that people think we do. So we're just we're repeating ourselves it seems like every week or every meeting we're looking for things to start moving, and COVID has been a challenge, and we've said that before. So like you said earlier, the balance thing, I think that's what we're going to have to balance trying to come out of this. As much as we got to keep focused on COVID and trying to come out safely, we got to get moving on some of our local issues. And I'm looking forward to over the next couple of months, maybe even these things that were just mentioned now. Something else that's coming forward is, and you've been working with North Forth on the community safety zone up there. I'm not sure if that's the answer for here, but it's something that we need to start looking at around Peterborough County. I've said that before, and I'd like to work with you over the next couple of months here on all of these issues. I think you said you're back in Queen's Park and you're cohorting. Is that how it's working? So you're every other? Okay,
For the month of October, I'm still in Peterborough and would only be going up to Queen's Park on an as-needed basis. So if there was an issue with the ministry that I'm the parliamentary assistant to, then I would go up for that. If there was voting on specific issues that we needed extra bodies there, then I would go up for that. But for all intents and purposes, I am in the riding for the month of October, and I'll be going back at the 1st of November.
well, I think a couple of the ministries that you're involved in are the ones that we're really wanting to talk about. So that's a bonus. So anyway, is there any other questions from council? If not, I thank you, Dave. Like I say, it's been good with your updates every other week or every week at some times, but and we did that with the federal government too, and we're really, kept in touch with everything. So anyways, if we can, hopefully we'll keep that going forward and plus add these other things into the discussion. So thank you very much.
Tomorrow night's our next scheduled mayor's meeting. So yes, we are very much keeping it going.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. Thank you. And I guess I'll see you tomorrow night. So thank you. I'll look for a motion to receive the delegation. Moved by Councillor Webb, seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. All in favor? And that's carried. So thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
And so Bob, was there any other delegations today? I don't have any scheduled.
No, through you, Mayor Martin, no other delegations.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then we'll move on to the next item, and that's staff reports for information. We have 3 reports there. One was incident summary from Chief Haynes for the August. The next was the walk-in vaccination clinic summary for the arena over the summer. And the other one was closed session meeting summary. So is there anything you want to talk about there? If not, I'll look for a motion to receive the reports for information.
Motion to receive, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Ellis. Seconder? Do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Webb. Any questions? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, next we have staff reports with that follow-up action. The first here is Deputy Clerk with regards to geocaching. Hey, Bianca.
Good morning, Mayor Martin and members of council. The purpose of my report today is to seek council's approval to create and place geocaches within the Matheson property, and to also expend $100 from the Materials and Supplies Economic Development account number for the materials required to create 14 geocaches. So geocaching is a real-world scavenger hunt where families can go out and find a small container in the woods, in the nature, using their app on their smartphone, and then logging their name in the book and sharing their experience on the online community. So there's a few advantages for placing geocaches within the Matheson property. And one would be to bring traveling geocachers to the community. Another one would be that we can include information in the geocache description, so we can provide the history of the property. And it also promotes sightseeing of the township for those who may not know of the certain beauties in our community. So I am recommending that 14 geocaches be placed within the Matheson property, the first one being at the parking lot, so it can start off the geocachers' exploration of the acreage. There are 3 lookouts and 10 individual trails within the property. And I'm also recommending that a geocache be placed at each of these locations. And in the description, we can list some of the wildlife that's in the property. I've attached Appendix A and B. A is showing the popularity of geocaching in the township right now. And Appendix B is a map of the Matheson property and the trails. And I have indicated with a yellow star where I believe we should look at placing geocaches.
Thank you, Bianca. And yeah, this is something that came up years ago at TRIP. There was a lady on the committee that talked about geocaching, and I think it was new then. I think it's been around for a while. I do know of a couple spots that I look after, and I see people going up to these things and taking pictures or whatever and doing things, and it's they're probably scanning a code. But anyways, it's I think it's something that's really popular, and you know, it'd be good to give it a go here to see how it works out. But like I've told you, I know enough about technology to be dangerous, and this here, I don't know a lot about it, but I'd be interested to try it out. So I think it's really a good thing to do here. But I'll open it up to council here and see what their thoughts are. Anybody got any questions? Councillor Ellis?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a great idea. Geocaching, I kind of learned a little bit about it through my granddaughter and my one son this summer. It's kind of a fun thing to do. I think it's an excellent idea for our Matheson property. And I notice the items that you're talking about purchasing, from what experience I've had finding geocache, some of them have a little container that people leave items in the little container. Some of them are very, very small. That's just got the little roll of paper in it that you sign and whatever. So it was nice to see your approach by purchasing those little boxes. I really like the idea of the information being in there about the Matheson property. But I think it's a great idea for promoting our Matheson property and bringing tourists to our municipality. So I'd like to make the motion that we approve the recommendation for the purchase the items and have Bianca carry on with geocaching.
Okay, so I do have a mover here, and Councillor Ellis is moving. It's seconded by Councillor. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. So, so I'll ask any other questions or comments around this. Really well done, Bianca, and look forward to giving it a try. So,
Thank you.
if there's no other questions, I'll call the question here. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried, Bianca, so we can get on with it. So
Thank you.
thank you. So next we have a working from home policy, CAO Angioni.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. This report presents for council's consideration a remote working policy, also known as a work from home policy. Work from home or remote work was implemented as an emergency measure during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. So this report clarifies that work from home or remote work does not change the employment agreement for any employees who are participating in work from home.
Okay. All right. Is there any questions around this? Councillor Pomeroy, go ahead.
Yeah, there's a couple questions. I can't find them here right now, but one was something about 14 days or something. Bob, I just can't find it here.
I will attempt to find it as well, Mayor Martin.
Okay.
See if I can find the section of the policy that speaks to that. Okay, so that is, if you look at, it's in a couple of spots, but if you look at Appendix A, it's in the first paragraph. And basically what this policy suggests that if you are working from home, if an employee is working from home and the township requests that you return to the office on a permanent basis, you will have 14 days to make that adjustment back to the office.
Why would you need 14 days to make an adjustment back to the office? That's my question.
Well, it gives the employee enough time to adjust and readjust back to the workplace. If you wish, if council wishes, we can reduce that number.
Well, my own personal feeling is it shouldn't take 14 days to adjust coming back to work.
Okay. So is there any other comments around it? Councillor Webb, go ahead.
Yeah, well, to Councillor Pomeroy's point is, I'm taking it that, Bob, in such a situation, we would be the ones telling the person that they have to come back to work, or you would?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, that is correct. So the corporation controls the arrangement, and the corporation at any time can cancel the arrangement for any employee who has signed on to work from home. So that is
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, so I'll try and get inside Councillor Pomeroy's head here for a sec, but if we deem something, if you deem the person is fit to work and should be back at work, I take it you would think that they weren't ill or whatnot, so to his point, couldn't not, I don't know, shouldn't it even almost be the next day? And I understand you might want to grant a day or two period, but 14 days is like giving them an extra 2 weeks. I don't
That
understand.
is correct. Through you, Mayor Martin, 2 weeks was the parameter that we were thinking about, but we can certainly reduce that if that's council's wish.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just
so-
wondering, because obviously we've already decided at that point that we want the person to come back. So I don't know why we'd be granting them another week or two off if we or you have made the decision that they should be back and legally should be back at work.
So I
So-
realize you have to have a number there, Bob, but that number could be adjusted then. Deputy Mayor
Yep.
Groh has a question. Go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. To carry on with this same conversation, I think if there was a need, Bob has already said this isn't a privilege. The CEO, if he's requiring that person that's working from home to get into the office and work from there, it must be for a reason. So I don't really agree with a 2-week period. I think it'd be shorter than that.
Yeah,
Through
so-
you, Mayor Martin, we're certainly open to the suggestion from council. Whatever you would like.
okay. Yeah, like I'm not sure. At first, when I was reading it, I was thinking it was around COVID and 14-day, period. But if it's just there for a number, I'm sure it can be adjusted. It could say up to 14 days, but it's on your discretion. I don't see why even 7 days, like within the next week to return to work. But unless there's circumstances that, like a good circumstances there as far as that it can't be done. But so I don't know. It's up to council here. If you want to, there is a recommendation here, but it can be amended here a little bit. Otherwise, we can bring it back to the next meeting. Go ahead, Councillor Ellis.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So somebody working from home could be there for several reasons. We're not saying it's sick. We're not saying it's COVID. There can be several reasons why that person may be working from home. So I think it's fair to utilize a term of up to 7 days to give somebody time to reestablish their home dwelling that has accommodated working from home and to get returned to work. So I think up to 7 days would be fair. My comment.
Okay. So that can be put into the motion, and yeah, I fully agree, Councillor Ellis, that there has to be some sort of a bit of a time to adjust. It's one of those things that we've proven over the last year and a half that the technology works, and it can work good for both sides here, but we have to have some rules around it here. So Councillor Webb, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I don't want to get bogged down here because the rest of the report I like, so I think we're just on the number. Why couldn't it say at the discretion of the CAO, or sorry, as soon as possible, at the discretion of the CAO, no more than 7 days? Because to me, 7 days is too long in most instances. Like if somebody's been ordered back to work, they can move their computers and chairs around at home on their own time, not on our time.
Yeah.
I'm not paying them for a week to reorganize their office at home.
Yeah, I think some of it's around other things too, but that's good. Like that's, if you want to do that, or we can defer this till the next meeting, but I think that works. We have to give the CAO some wiggle room here as far as to make things work. And, you know, the 7 days is reasonable, I think. So, you know, and if there's some reason it needs more than that, Bob will have to bring that back to us. But for this report here, I think how you worded it there, Councillor Webb, could work. I don't know what council's thoughts are on that, but that might help get it moving here. Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead.
I'd just like a clarification of the 7 days. Is that 7 working days?
That's
Bob,
Through you, no, through you, Mayor Martin, that's 7 calendar days.
Thank you.
So can you make that work into there, Bob, as far as what Councillor Webb said with, you know, your discretion, but up to 7 days?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, if council chooses to adopt the policy today with an amendment to reword that particular section.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so that's moved by Councillor Webb. Do I have a seconder for that?
Second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Ellis. Questions to the motion? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. So, thank you. Okay, our next report here is the old town hall. Who's going to take that there? Bob, I'll let you take that.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. So this report brings forward an update regarding the condition of the old town hall. An order has been placed by our chief building official on the facility as it currently stands. And council has 2 options as per the staff report. We can choose to invest in rehabilitating the old town hall or divest of that particular structure and invest funds into a different structure within the community.
So personally here, I think this is, you know, the report's well done and there's some good pictures in there. I really think that we need to have a meeting with the user groups of the hall, in particular the jammers invested some money into the hall. I think once they see this report and see what we're up against, maybe they'll have some suggestions, but there's others that use the hall too. And I think it's all communications here. As long as everybody knows what we're up against, I don't think they'll have a problem with what we decide, but I think we need to know all the information too, because, you know, this has been around a long time. It's, I think it was 2008. We do have a facility assessment program that we brought in 2018, and we really haven't used it. It came forward at budget, and then we didn't go ahead with things. And this is going to happen with all our buildings if we don't start following that facility assessment report that we had. If you don't do any work on them, they're going to fall down. So this thing here, even since we were told in 2008 that it had some issues, we really haven't put a lot of money into it. So moving forward, we're going to have to follow the assessment for what it's there for and start fixing these buildings and including it in the budget. So so this here with the town hall, there's a recommendation, the 2 recommendations here are options. And I think personally, we should be inviting some of the users that have been using it over the past. We had the Snowmobile Club use it on a regular basis. The Jammers use it. It's used by different community organizations, the scouting. I think we need to talk to them and let them know what we're up against here and what our thoughts are as far as moving forward, because we do have a plan to help them with other options possibly. So, but I don't think the decision today can be made whether we tear it down or put the money into it. I think we need to have a little bit more input from the public, but that's just my thoughts. What's council's thoughts here? Deputy Mayor Giroux?
Thank you, Mayor Martin. First of all, Bob, I want to say thank you for this report. This is well done, very well done. One of the best reports we've had on the town hall since way back when. I think there's 9 or 10 bulletins, 9 or 10 packages in this package. And it's, what can I say? It's well done. It gives you a whole scope of the problems. We've been in a COVID situation here for a while. The mayor has made his statements that we haven't done any work on it. Well, I guess we haven't, because we didn't know what direction we were going. We didn't pick a direction 10 years ago either. So this council was kind of mandated to look forward this term of council. I think have been doing that efficiently. And yeah, it's time. And to say that we shouldn't move forward with it today is a fair statement. But it's time to move forward. And I think if we'd have had an opportunity to show all the pictures and all the problems that we have with the town that's provided to council through your report, Bob, then the majority of the taxpayers would know what we're up against, the money that it's going to cost. The users, definitely, we do have to communicate with them and make them understand, or maybe make them is not the right word, but explain to them that we will provide a place, if anything, if a decision is made to replace the town hall. So all these 10 bulletins in this package need to be somehow conveyed to the public. Without bringing them up on the screen, I don't know how you do that. And that would be an hour session in itself. So we can't drag our feet any longer on this decision. We've dragged it too long now. It's time to make a move. So Bob, I want to thank you again for this report. Well done. You've given us 2 options. I appreciate that. And I hope we move soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Giroux. Councillor Ellis and Councillor Pomeroy.
Yes, I'd just like to echo Deputy Mayor Giroux's comments. He has hit the nail on the head. First of all, the report, as Deputy Mayor Giroux said, it's all there for us. And if we'd have had that type of report a while back, we wouldn't have been still dealing with this issue. Putting it off is not the way to go. We do have a obligation to the people that, as Dave mentioned, an obligation to those people to communicate, and we do have the ability to supply another location to accommodate those people. But I totally agree. We have a building that is not safe. People shouldn't be in it. We haven't dealt with it in the past because of the cost affected. The cost that it would have affected our municipality to deal with it. So it was always put off because of the high cost. So it is time to deal with it, as Deputy Mayor Giroux says. And my last comment is I have a concern that we still have OPP that are in the bottom half of that building. And we're telling people that we can't use it because it's unsafe. So that's another thing we need to deal with, is find another location for our OPPs. But I'm in agreement with Deputy Mayor Giroux. with all his comments, saying it's time to make that decision. But again, the people that have been using it need to be informed and given another location for them to carry on. My comments.
Okay. Councillor Pomeroy, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Deputy Mayor Giroux and Councillor Ellis for their comments. And I see the engineering report was back 2008. And the dollar figure then, and what would it be now? It's going to be at least 3 times as much. And we do have a community center there that we can utilize, and without an exorbitant price, you know, to accommodate everyone. That's, you know, we have it, use it. That's
Yeah.
my bottom line anyway. That's the way I look at it. And, you know, as far as going up and putting Band-Aids on the old town hall, those days are past. That, you know, we're going to be into the millions of dollars, not just a million. You're going to be into many of them. So I would just thank the rest of council, you know, for being along the same thought lines anyway.
Okay, so what is the motion then? Do you have anything, Councillor Webb, to add to this?
No, not really. I agree with a lot of the comments here. I don't know, I thought about your comments earlier that maybe we were gonna have another session with some of these user groups before we went ahead, but I'm hearing from probably a majority of council that they're ready to go ahead. So I personally would like to maybe hear a little bit more and have maybe one more sit down with these groups to not only hear what they have to say about the old building, but maybe their ideas for what to do after. So, but I'll just leave it at that. As everybody said, this is it's going to be a huge cost to repair that building, and a lot of time too. The one problem I have with it is if we do fix it up in the location it's in, even if we make it into a palace, I don't know where, when people go in it, where are they going to park? There's no parking around there. So there are issues as such that I agree with. I just, I thought we might have a little bit more discussion with the community, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay, and so with this option too, Bob, is that like to sell the place or is that tear it down?
Through you, Mayor Martin, that would be the decision of council. You could choose either option. You could sell or tear down, whatever you prefer.
Okay, all right, Councillor Pomeroy, go ahead.
Yeah, and to Councillor Webb's point, I got no problem on meeting. You know, if we want to meet with some user groups and get their feelings. A lot of them might think, you know, the same as some of us, or maybe the very opposite. I don't know. So, but I think they should be given the opportunity, as you said. So I think we should set up a meeting with some of the users.
And that's kind of what I meant there, is that it's our job to make these tough decisions, but as long as everybody understands what we're up against, and I think like Deputy Mayor Giroux said, this report, as much as the one from 2008, we've all seen it before and we just kind of didn't do too much. This report here has it plus other things. You know, there's some pictures like, and I know people will say, I said the same thing, a few rusty clips on there doesn't make that ramp unsafe, it just needs new clips on it. But the overall 2008 report, there's some huge things that need done to this. And I think if the community knows that, they might understand. And that's all I was saying about, you know, updating them on where we're at and what we're thinking. So anyways, Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. I would like to make a motion that we receive this report and that we contact the user groups that we deal with on a regular basis and set up some kind of a meeting, if possible, to discuss and have the whole framework of what we have here from our CAO. So take an hour to go through this and show them the challenges. We all know this is the grand old lady of the center of our municipality. She was a grand old lady for 100 and some years. At the same time, we had 30 businesses on George Street that thrived and so on. Times change. And whether it's the council's fault that we didn't keep spending money on it, or whether we needed other things, I'm not going to debate that. But I think we should certainly explain to them that we have another spot, perhaps for them, to reassure them that we're not just going to shut it down when they can get back in it. And then they won't have any place to go. So that would be my motion, to receive the report and to set up a meeting with those user groups that normally use it and go through the whole scenario. That's my motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Giroux. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Webb. Okay, any questions or comments about the motion? I think that's a great idea. We can do that, and it'll just clarify some things here, what we're up against. So I'll call the question. Oh, Councillor Ellis, did you have a question there?
Just a last comment. I just think we should be a little cautious of how we talk about the old town hall when the decision is made to not spend the money there. It gets people rather upset when we hear we're going to take a wrecking ball to it. I think it'd be a little more palatable to those people that have a concern about the building if they knew it would maybe be sold, not with a wrecking ball taken to it.
Yeah.
Just comment.
Yeah, and that'll be part of the discussion when we meet with the groups, or maybe one of them will be interested. So anyways, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Thank you. All right. So next here we have correspondence, and we have one action item, and that's with regards to the HPPCS, the Havelock-Belmont Public School fundraiser here. I think we did help them one other year. I'm not sure, maybe it was Rotary Club that helped them, but Hart, do you know anything about this?
Yeah, well, just kind of as it says in the letter there, Jim, their fundraising efforts last year were pretty much shut down completely. This council does a tremendous job of raising money. Little background, what the money is for is playground equipment in the schoolyard over there that I guess they purchased some about 10 years ago, but the equipment that is over there, I guess, is getting a little run down. And so it's for some playground equipment, and I think also some equipment for the gym. So I think, and what they were looking for, I know it says 2,200 in there that they raised, but I think what they're looking for is similar matching dollars to what they've raised. Because I don't think it was actually specified in there, but.
No, yeah, something like that, but okay, thank you. I'll open up to council. Any questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Giroux.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. I don't think it's any secret that our Havelock-Belmont Public School Parent Council has done a great job over the years. And yes, we have helped them out many times with their walking, running track and gardens and outdoor classrooms and so on. And I fully understand that the troubles they probably had during COVID, and for a good reason. People are hurting, and we keep coming back to council looking for money, but we're using taxpayers' dollars also. I think it's time that the school boards, who we spend millions of dollars to every year, stepped up and provided some of this stuff. We have, as of this morning, I think we have 5 COVID cases in our school, and they're doing a wonderful job over there. to try and alleviate this. And this this equipment is certainly necessary, or certainly would be of use to our children, our students at the school. But for me, I'm finding it difficult to match these dollars of taxpayers' money. I'm just finding that very difficult in these times that we're in right now. So that's just a comment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
Trying to remember, did the school get any of the COVID money funding?
No.
Would that not be a possibility to utilize some of the COVID funding rather than, as Councillor or Deputy Mayor Gross has used, tax dollars?
Well, I think that's, yeah, what we were looking at was, it would hopefully come out of COVID money to offset their losses from lack of fundraising from COVID, right?
Okay. I've seen Wendellin's screen light up. Do you have any comments there, Wendelin?
I don't think it would probably qualify under the COVID funding, and unless they were like a business, which they're not. I would suggest if council wants to support this, that it would come from a donation, and because we don't want to be liable for owning or being a part owner in any equipment for risk management. So if it's a straight donation, and then you also have your council initiatives funds that you can pull from.
I think that's what Barry was thinking. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Barry. And then I think Art, you had something.
Well, I have to kind of agree with, well, I do agree with Mayor Giroux's comments. First of all, the Peterborough Board of Education, they have a budget. Are any of these items on their budget? We don't know. But maybe we should be able to inquire to see, do they budget for this, or do they come back to council whenever they need something? So I'm under the same guys, I guess, as Dave, because it's come back to the taxpayer all the time, and we are paying taxes to the school board. Hopefully, if they want these things, they have the foresight to put it in their budget. We have playground equipment right next door to the school that they could utilize.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll leave it at that, but that's my feelings.
Well, all these items aren't in their budget. This is stuff that the parent council always has raised funds to buy it. They did the playground, they did all that stuff. That's not things that the board has been doing in the past. Maybe it's wrong, but that is something that it's always been up to the parent council. But go ahead, Councillor Webb.
Yeah, just to both Deputy Mayor and Councillor Pomeroy's point, this is an issue I've been raising over there for a number of years, because yes, you are right. These the playground equipment and the rest of it that we've been donating to for years should be paid for out of the school budget, but it's not. It's continually being passed on to the parent council. Now, I've raised it with the past principal. I raised it with the new principal at the last meeting, and was told, actually, it wasn't even over this issue, it was over the insurance for the playground inspections. And I asked, why is this the parent council? They pay $1,200 each year just for insurance, just for the playground inspection. And I said, why doesn't the board cover that? And the principal told me, because they don't have money in their budget to do that. And to the deputy mayor and Councillor Pomeroy's point, they're exactly right. And I said, just that, in that it shouldn't be these councils, these that are running around, you know, with the mothers. They've got other things to do to raise their kids than they're running these fundraisers to try and put playground equipment in these parks that the school board should be paying for. Perhaps if they didn't give the teachers a raise every 2 years, there'd be money to, you know, do some of these upgrades and the rest of this on this equipment. So I understand where you're coming from. The plea that's coming from the student council is the equipment that's there is limited, and falling apart. And if the money doesn't come from us, then there will be none, or there will be limited for students. I understand. I agree completely with your point. To me, it's a form of double taxation because we've already paid for this through our school taxes, and we're getting hit again on this side of the tax bill. But I think the parent, like the ladies that run the council, are just kind of exacerbated because they're just trying to provide the best environment for the kids over there at the school. So that's why you have them continuously coming here, because they're continuously being told by the school and the school board that there's no money for any of these projects. So just a little background to this. I agree. Like I philosophically agree with Councillor Pomeroy and Deputy Mayor Giroux in that we shouldn't be paying for this twice. But on the other side, it's if we don't chip in something, then you know what? I don't want them to be using the worn out soccer balls and basketballs in the gym and whatnot. So.
Okay. All right. So we have a request here, and I'm not here, and I don't know if there's any other way we can help them, but we're aware of it now, and it's something that we can look into more. I don't know what fundraisers they've been able to do this year, but if there is any way, that we can help, we're aware of it now, and maybe we can come back with another idea in the, maybe for the next meeting. But for this request right now, I'm from what I'm hearing, it looks like it's a motion to receive at this time. Is there anybody who wants to? That's moved by Councillor Pomeroy and seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux. Any other questions or comments to the motion? Councillor Pomeroy, go ahead.
Yeah, excuse me, through you, Mr. Mayor, I would like somehow or another to have the school board, put these things on their books, because maybe they are, maybe we don't know it, but it's like giving money and not know whether it's double dipping, or are they saving it for some other project? I have no idea. But anyway,
okay,
let's just carry on with this.
Thank you. Councillor Webb, speak to the motion.
Yeah, I'll second the motion. I just get just a comment that to the rest of council. I'm hoping to be meeting with the principal about this issue in the next week or two to have a real discussion about this, because as I said, this is not the first time I've come to council asking for money for school projects over there. And I think this council and the previous council have been more than gracious with their donations to the local school. So, and I appreciate that. But I think going forward, this is an issue that, like I said, that's going to have to be dealt with, by the school board, and no longer, have them coming to this council every time they need money. So they're going to have to work out their budget process over there a little better.
All right. So thank you. So I have a moved by Councillor Pomeroy, second by Deputy Mayor Giroux. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. So thank you. We have one other item under correspondence, and that's with regards to the schedule for the Bancroft-Minden Forest. There, a lot of times we do send that notice to the HPMLA. That might be something that we could do with this, so they're aware of the schedule for this. It's up to council here. Otherwise, I'll get a motion to receive. Deputy Mayor Giroux.
Through you, Deputy, or Mayor Martin, I would certainly make a motion to forward this on to the lake associations. They should have this information.
Okay, so so a motion to pass this information on to the HPMLA. Do I have a seconder for that?
Yeah.
Seconded by Councillor Ellis. All in favor? And that's carried. So next we'll move into committee liaison reports, and the first item there is the county council update. Deputy Mayor Giroux, there wasn't a ton on the last meeting, but go ahead.
Okay, there are 2 or 3 things I would like to speak of through you, Mayor Martin. The first one is in regards to the report we got from Randy Mellows, our Chief of Paramedics EMS. It'll relate a little bit to Chief Haynes's report this morning. I didn't touch on his report, but he's probably aware of this, but I'll have to give the Reader's Digest version because, and once again, I would suggest that all of council and anyone that's on our Zoom meeting today, log into the Peterborough County Zoom meetings, pick your topic that you're interested in and listen to them, because I can't give a report the way that Chief Mellows does. So he has to naturally report to the province. And so Peterborough County has met or exceeded their targets for their timing of their EMS arrivals. And they are striving to improve that. Now, the city naturally has 3 times as many, I should say that the city has, their times are significantly lower, and I don't have Chief Mellows's stats in front of me, but we struggle, and the biggest part of it, all of our municipalities in Peterborough County struggle for time, even though we may be we're achieving our time limits for our ambulances. The thing of it is, we are first responders. Our fire departments are first responders, and they're trying their best to curb this problem. According to Chief Mellows, we've had not a good or a poor dispatch system. So to give you an example of that, if the emergency dispatch gets a call and the patient says, okay, I'm short of breath, right away, right now, that's a sign that there's problems. So everybody goes, the fire department goes, and the ambulance is on the way, and so on. So now they've revised that, and there's a lot more questions they ask. So how long have you been short of breath? They didn't ask that before. Well, I've been short of breath for a month, and I think I better go in and get it checked out. And so they're going to change that. They're going to ask a whole array of questions now, and they're trying to get it to the point where somebody will make a decision before our fire department is called to even respond to that. So that's a step forward. So like I said, I can't give a report like Randy did. It was a great report, but they're striving to get to the point someday where we will not have to respond. Our fire departments will not have to respond as many times as we do, because we all see the reports, what they are. The vast 90% of them are medical calls. So that was one report, and again, I suggest that you go on that Zoom and listen to that. The other thing, Mayor Martin, that we did talk about was we made a motion that there's 2 mainstream revitalization fundings available. One funding was at 100%, and the other one was project was at 50%. And I do believe this takes in the county and 3 municipalities to apply for the funding. And it's for software that we'll all be able to communicate better. Our software will be compatible, etc. So there was that. And of course, The other thing was they passed a motion that the vaccination for all of Peterborough County employees, council, volunteers, contractors would be vaccinated by November the 1st. And then there will be a 14-day grace period after that. And of course, council will, or staff will work with any of them for, medical reason or any other circumstances beyond that. But they expect all those that can be, will be vaccinated and have their second vaccination by November the 1st. So with the discussions that took place there, I think by the sound of the discussions, most of the townships are going to, through their various representatives there, seemed like they were going to follow suit. So I think that's important to know. And if there's anything else that you can add, Mayor Martin, I'd appreciate it.
No, you pretty well covered it. We had some discussion around benefits, and they're in the same boat as we are. So there was a good discussion around them, similar to what we had. So other than that, no, it was a lot around the paramedics and the vaccination plan. So anyways, that was pretty well it for last week anyways. So thank you, Deputy Mayor Giroux. Our next item in there is Eastern Trails Alliance there, Dave, for your liaison report. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to.
Thank you for bringing, thank you, Mayor Martin. I will speak to that. I had a discussion with Bob a couple of weeks ago over this. I don't know what's happened down in the office. I've had a couple of phone calls now with them. For some reason or another, since June, we have not got the minutes from these meetings. So there was, let's just say Bob received the minutes, but he didn't get them in time to get them on this, for this meeting. So there will be 4 sets of meetings going forward for next. I will ask council's patience to go through them. It shouldn't happen, but it did. COVID wasn't to blame, I can say that. They are important, and there's particularly in the other business of September the 9th meeting, I brought the board up to date from where I stand, and from I'll just leave it at that, and you can read the report, and I'll speak about it at our next meeting. So my apologies through the office down there. I don't think it's going to happen again. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And you attended land division last week too. So that's your reports for liaison reports. As far as, and mine on there is just conference calls, and I did do my last AGM last week with Oak Lake. It's all of the meetings were held by Zoom this year, and they were kind of nice because they were all in the middle of the week, and a lot more relaxed atmosphere around the screen. Totally different from sitting in a hall or sitting somewhere else. They're all at home and they're very comfortable. So it was really, really good this year again. A lot of them seem to like the Zoom meetings for AGMs, and I don't know, I'm sure they'll go back to the old way as soon as we can, but there is a lot that like to do it through the middle of the week, which worked out well. So no real hot issues around the lakes. This year was a lot easier and a lot better, taken care of a lot better. We planned a little better going into the spring, and it was a lot smoother than last year. So other than that, Dave pretty well give you the update from last week's meeting. And like he said, I have another one tomorrow night. So that's all I have for liaison reports. And I'll look for a motion to receive the updates from us there. Moved by Councillor Webb and seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. All right, then, next we have oral notice of motion or written notice of motion. I don't have anything here today. And next on there is new business, and there's nothing listed under new business. So Councillor Pomeroy. You're muted.
Now, there's a couple little things here. The rail tracks I mentioned before to our MPP. I've been talking, I was talking to Peter, but I forgot to mention the road out beside the office there where we dug in the sewers. Maybe Bob knows, are we gonna have that fixed by before the snow flies, Bob?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. Yes, we will have that road fixed before the snow flies. I will check with the manager of Public Works for an exact date on that.
Okay, thank you very much. And the one that I'm getting a lot of questions on is the William Street house that burned. What can we do about it? It's still partially standing there.
You're best to talk to John about that. I've already talked to him about it, and it's probably something you should talk to him personally.
Okay,
Okay,
I will do that.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick one here. I had asked last council meeting to have the topic of Fish Hatchery Road added to new or other business. That I guess it's pretty been addressed this morning because I had the opportunity to talk to Dave Smith about it. So that's kind of been looked after. In regards to the patchwork that needs to be done out front, for council's information and for Bob's information, I was talking to Pete yesterday, and he has a number of small jobs to be completed. That's one of them. The culvert repair that was done on the 6th line, that was the reason I was talking to him, because it was done twice and they're going to come back and redo it again. I can't understand for the life of me how they done the patchwork there for over the culvert. First time it was so rough. They came back the second time and redid it. The southbound side of the culvert is as smooth as can be, but the north side is worse than what it was the first time. So anyway, that's part of some of the patchwork that Pete's getting done, and it should be done this week, as well as the one out in front of the office. Just I gave you that information for so Bob doesn't have to go digging.
Thank you. Okay, Deputy Mayor Giroux.
Through you, Mayor Martin, thank you, council members, for the 6-line information that was on my list. I would just like to publicly say thank you to our fire department, who over the last couple of weeks, I know all of council has spoke to our fire department one-on-one probably and thank them, but I would like to for council, for all of council and staff, to thank the fire department. They went through quite a bit in the last couple of weeks, and they deserve a thank you from all of us, not only council, but our municipality. They've dealt with quite a bit, and we need to support them. Thank you.
Thank you. I totally agree. Okay, then. That's all we have under new business, or there wasn't anything under there, but we had a few things. So anyways, we'll move on to bylaws here. There is no bylaws. So the next item is the confirming bylaw. So I'll look for a motion for the confirming bylaw for today's meeting. Moved by Councillor Webb, seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux. All in favor? And that's carried. And a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Pomeroy, seconded by Councillor Webb. So all in favor, and that's carried.